If you've ever stared at a party invite on your phone and felt this weird mix of guilt, dread, and a tiny bit of relief when you finally hit decline, this is for you, because you've probably wondered at least once, is there something wrong with me? Why does everyone else seem to live for this stuff? Why does the idea of being stuck in a room full of people make me want to disappear, even though I'm not antisocial and I do care about people? And chances are, if you clicked on a video called "Why High IQ Individuals Reject Social Gatherings," you've had that feeling more than once. Here's the wild part. What looks like being antisocial from the outside can actually be the product of a brain that is working really well, just differently from the environment it's in. Not better, not worse, different. The difference, when examined closely, is anchored in far more psychological and neurological underpinnings than you might initially think. Let's begin with a deceptively simple concept, something that likely hasn't been directly explained to you before. Your aversion to social gatherings may not stem from a personal shortcoming. Instead, it could very well be your brain operating precisely as designed and doing so effectively. If that feels overly reassuring, hang on. Things will get uncomfortable, but in a constructive way later. For now, let's shift focus so you can feel truly understood, even if just briefly. Think back to the last social event you attended. Perhaps it was a birthday party, an office meetup, or a casual gathering your friend encouraged you to join. You arrive. The music is obnoxiously loud. The lighting feels either excessively bright or frustratingly dim. People have clumped into small groups, holding overlapping conversations. Someone near you is shouting over the noise about something you don't particularly care about. Meanwhile, questions like, "So, what do you do for work?" and "Did you catch that new Netflix series?" are cycling endlessly around the room. Outwardly, you're doing all the right things, nodding, smiling, cracking a joke or two. Internally, though, it feels like your brain is running 200 browser tabs at once. You're meticulously tracking tonal shifts in voices, decoding micro-expressions, forecasting how the conversation might unfold next. You're calculating when it's socially acceptable to exit a discussion and desperately suppressing the urge to say something brutally candid. Simultaneously, you're replaying that slightly awkward phrase you blurted out 10 minutes ago and thinking to yourself, this could have been an email. If this resonates with you, it reveals something substantial. Highly intelligent minds often process significantly more information at any given moment, not just logic and numbers, but also patterns, nuances, and unspoken implications. While that heightened processing capacity sounds impressive in theory, it can turn a seemingly ordinary social event into a flood of sensory and cognitive overstimulation. For many people, a gathering feels like ambient noise mixed with a few faces. But for someone like you, it may resemble a torrent of live data demanding constant analysis, error checking, and predictive modeling from your mental circuits. Where others feel reinvigorated by the crowd's energy, you may find yourself drained after expending considerable mental effort that goes unnoticed by those around you. Society tends to label this as antisocial behavior, coldness, arrogance, or one of its favorite assumptions, thinking you're better than everyone else. Let's address that misconception immediately. Opting for solitude or preferring meaningful one-on-one interactions does not equate to misplaced feelings of superiority. Often, it's more about fatigue, a sense of disinterest, and an innate inclination for your mind to wander elsewhere that captivates it far more. But why is it that individuals with high intelligence frequently steer clear of social functions? There's no single answer. The reasons are layered: cognitive, emotional, sensory-driven, even existential, and they build upon each other. One of the key factors is stimulation. Psychology posits that some brains are wired to be more sensitive to external stimuli than others. This ties closely to distinctions between introversion and extroversion, though it goes deeper than mere shyness or outgoingness. It's centered on how your nervous system reacts to incoming information. For many highly intelligent people, their mental baseline hums at an already active state, even in solitude. Alone, their thoughts are occupied by internal simulations, planning scenarios, dissecting problems no one requested them to solve, reflecting deeply, imagining alternative possibilities. Now place that same brain, a mind already operating at full speed, into a frenetic social setting, flooded with overlapping conversations, noisy surroundings, unpredictable interruptions, and endless micro-decisions. Who should I approach next? What's an appropriate response to this joke? Am I following the right unwritten social norms? For someone whose mind is already functioning at a complex level internally, this added influx of external stimuli can quickly elevate the experience from manageable stimulation to overwhelming chaos. Imagine your phone running multiple heavy apps simultaneously, and now you open several more tabs on top of that. Adding a demanding game to your phone doesn't just bring excitement, it drains the battery and heats it up. Social gatherings can be the human equivalent of that. While others leave saying, "That was fun, let's do it again," you might leave thinking, "I need to lie down in a dark room and stare at the ceiling for 2 hours." That's just one part of it, though. Another aspect is the balance between quality and quantity of stimulation. Many highly intelligent people are often perceived as snobbish, though this perception usually stems from mismatched interests. Their brains crave novelty, complexity, meaningful conversations, and deep dives into fascinating ideas. They want to discuss profound topics, explore intriguing systems, or share personal philosophies. But most socializing doesn't cater to that. Parties, for instance, often revolve around small talk, light discussions, and shared references that help everyone feel at ease. So, when you show up ready to explore why people self-sabotage, but the room is buzzing about Instagram posts or casual banter, it feels like bringing a chess set to an Uno game. It's not that Uno is beneath you, it's just that your brain finds more joy in a different kind of challenge. If you've ever taken the risk of bringing up a deep topic at a social event and been met with an awkward silence or a shallow, "Ha-ha, that's interesting," before the conversation drifts back to surface-level chatter, you know the feeling of being too much for the room. After repeatedly experiencing this, your brain starts making a mental note. These places don't offer rewards that justify the effort. This is where the cost-benefit analysis comes into play, often subconsciously. The effort includes getting ready, traveling, being socially engaged, navigating small talk, suppressing parts of yourself to fit in, pretending to be more upbeat or extroverted than you feel, and staying longer than you'd like to avoid judgment for leaving early. The reward? Maybe one worthwhile conversation, or some fleeting laughs, a few pictures for appearances, and the feeling of checking the socially enough box. For an efficient mind, there comes a point where all that effort outweighs the reward. And yes, intelligence is often tied to this kind of long-term cost-benefit analysis, not necessarily in a better or worse way, but in a rational one. Typically future-focused and tuned into opportunity costs, highly intelligent individuals might weigh spending 3 hours at a party against spending 3 hours doing something they find more fulfilling: reading, creating, learning, reflecting, or even just enjoying some solitude to process life. The latter often seems far more valuable. It's one of the reasons research suggests intelligent people report greater happiness with less frequent socializing, particularly when they're pursuing meaningful goals that demand their attention and energy. It isn't about hating people. It's about prioritizing limited emotional and mental resources on what feels most worthwhile. That said, there's nuance here. Maybe you truly don't enjoy social events. Maybe you've convinced yourself you don't like them because they've never been catered to you. Or maybe you do value connection but lack patience for the unwritten rules of social rituals. A glaring example is small talk, a staple of social interactions that many intellectually curious and introspective people find utterly grating. Small talk often comes across as hollow and superficial. How are you? Oh, I'm fine. Crazy weather we're having. Meanwhile, your mind is itching for something real. Tell me what you're working on lately. What have you been struggling with? What's your secret fear? Which book changed your perspective on life? Instead, you're stuck in what feels like an endless feedback loop of social pleasantries, orchestrated for safety rather than substance. Small talk functions as a buffer. It gives people an easy entry point into conversation without exposing their vulnerabilities too quickly. But if your brain naturally bypasses that cushion zone and wants to leap straight into the meat of human connection, most group settings can start to feel like an unharmonious dance where you're always out of step. Here's where it gets simultaneously fascinating and frustrating. Highly intelligent individuals often desire understanding more than attention. It isn't about seeking constant acknowledgement or validation, but rather yearning for someone who actually gets them. When you're surrounded by people yet feel a lack of genuine understanding, it can be lonelier than being alone. There's a unique kind of emptiness in standing amidst a crowd while realizing no one there really knows who you are. And worse, lacking the energy or willpower to bridge that gap in the moment. So over time, your brain reasons, why put myself through this again? Another important layer to consider is a potential mismatch in values. Displaying status, flaunting lifestyles, pretending to enjoy certain things, projecting happiness. These actions often dominate social interactions. Yet, if your mind gravitates toward seeking meaning rather than status, it's easy to feel alienated in spaces where the primary currency is how entertaining or fun you appear. Have you ever been in a crowd, looked around, and felt detached, thinking, it seems like everyone's playing a game I have no interest in, yet I'm judged for not playing along? That sensation doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It's simply a reflection of your different values and priorities. Perhaps you cherish depth over superficial engagement, integrity over image, truth over comfort, or growth over conformity. Now imagine someone with these priorities in an environment that promotes the opposite. Inevitably, they'll feel stifled or even out of place. Adding another layer to this complexity is the capability for metacognition, the awareness and analysis of one's own thoughts. Individuals with high levels of intelligence often grapple with an almost comical level of self-awareness, like having a relentless inner camera critiquing their every move in real time. Why did you say that? Did that joke come across as rude? You've been too quiet. No, now you're talking too much. Even your posture feels wrong. This constant overanalyzing is exhausting. And in social settings, it can stifle spontaneity, leading to awkwardness that compounds itself until it becomes an overwhelming drain. The truth is, many highly intelligent people are not inherently bad at socializing. They're simply expending too much mental energy on the process. The continuous self-monitoring and adjusting require so much thought that it begins to feel easier to withdraw entirely. On top of that, when you're accustomed to thinking several steps ahead, social interactions can seem unbearably slow and tedious. Conversations might reach conclusions your mind predicted long ago. Punchlines become predictable. Commonplace observations feel superficial. You often recognize the nuances beneath the surface, but refrain from saying anything too complex because this isn't the right time or place. Over time, simplifying who you are to make others comfortable can become habitual and exhausting. You might start questioning the purpose of participating in such interactions if they don't allow you to bring your full self anyway. Even worse, if you've ever allowed your genuine curiosity, intensity, or unfiltered self to peek through and been met with discomfort or judgment, it reinforces the belief that it's better to stay guarded. For some, this leads to a feeling of being a social shapeshifter, capable of playing the part when necessary, but never truly at ease, never feeling at home. Eventually, staying home literally starts to feel like the better option. But let's acknowledge another perspective. Not all avoidance of social gatherings stems from profound self-awareness or intellectual discernment. Sometimes it's simply fear. Fear of rejection, fear of misunderstanding, fear of failing at the unspoken performance, fear of wearing yourself out for nothing. Intelligence doesn't eliminate fear. In some cases, it amplifies it. A sharp mind can vividly imagine all the ways things might go wrong, turning potential discomfort into outright dread. You may wonder why, despite your intellect, social situations still feel so daunting, but intelligence is not courage. It equips you to analyze. It doesn't necessarily enable action. Another critical factor to consider is neurodivergence. Many people with high IQs might also be navigating autism, ADHD, or heightened sensitivities. For them, social environments can be not just mentally exhausting, but physically overwhelming, with bright lights, loud noises, and constant interruptions bombarding an already overtaxed system. If this resonates with you, it's important to remember that you're not imagining your discomfort. It's very real and rooted in the way your nervous system is wired. Pushing yourself into such spaces to appear normal often brings more harm than good. Taking a broader view reveals a complicated picture. For highly intelligent individuals, or anyone experiencing these challenges, there are multiple factors at play. Mental overactivity that amplifies cognitive load during social exchanges. A disdain for meaningless small talk in favor of meaningful connection. Hypersensitivity to noise and chaos that turns parties into sensory minefields. And a future-oriented mindset that makes extended periods of idle conversation feel inefficient or unproductive. Understanding these dynamics is not about making excuses. It's about recognizing why certain situations feel like they just don't fit. It's okay to need less noise in order to thrive, or prefer solitude over surface-level interactions. Healthy socialization should allow space for authenticity. It should energize rather than drain you entirely. Instead of trying to mold yourself into an environment that doesn't align with your values or needs, maybe the real question is, how can you create spaces where you can fully be yourself, and where that feels like enough? Embrace those unique niche spaces that may feel a bit unconventional or even slightly uncomfortable, because those are often the places where people like you tend to gather. Seek out that one person you already share a small connection with and take steps to deepen it. Progress doesn't have to come in leaps. Sometimes little experiments are just as powerful, and most importantly, it's perfectly fine if you're still figuring it all out. Uncertainty doesn't make you less valid. Whether or not you've been told you have a high IQ isn't as important as the way you experience life. If you're someone who thinks deeply, feels different in most group settings, puts a premium on meaningful conversation over small talk, feels drained by crowds, and uses solitude to recharge and reflect, this is for you, label or no label. You don't need a test score or external validation to justify how your mind and body respond to the world around you. Here's something worth hearing. You're not alone, even if it often feels that way. Many people quietly step away from the hustle of mainstream social life. Many sit at home on a Saturday night, feeling a strange relief mixed with questions about whether they're doing life wrong. They might prefer watching something insightful over shouting over loud music, writing instead of chatting, or observing the world while feeling out of place in it. You're not the only one. Maybe you're just one of the honest few who chooses to notice the difference rather than trying to numb it. If reading this touches something in you, makes you feel understood in a way that doesn't always happen, hold on to that. Because the next time someone asks, "Why are you so quiet? Are you okay?" or says, "You never come out anymore," you'll hear a new response in your head. It won't be, "I'm broken," or "I'm weird." Instead, it'll be, "My brain processes differently. I crave depth. I'm intentional with my energy." And all of that is valid. From there, you get to decide what's worth stepping out of your comfort zone for, and when it's wiser to respect your limits. No one else can dictate that balance for you. If you feel conflicted, part of you longing for solitude while another part craves connection, that isn't a contradiction. That's just part of being human in an overwhelming world. And if life has ever made you feel like you're too intense, too quiet, too analytical, too introspective, consider this. Maybe the issue wasn't you. Maybe it was the spaces you've been trying to fit into. A high-functioning mind rejecting shallow interactions or overstimulating environments isn't a flaw. It's a sign. A sign that your surroundings aren't nurturing who you are, that the noise doesn't harmonize with the inner symphony of your thoughts. The solution isn't muting yourself or pushing away your instincts. It's learning how to honor those signals without completely shutting yourself off. So yes, you might keep saying no to many of society's louder, more generic invitations. There's no shame in that. But I hope you keep saying yes in your own way, at your own speed, to opportunities and people who affirm your true self. When you find spaces, or even just one or two kindred spirits, where your mind feels at home, everything changes. Social interactions stop being draining noise and start feeling like a sense of belonging. Even if it's just sitting with someone who understands and wants to talk about things others shy away from. When that happens, every time you said no to places or people that didn't align will suddenly make sense. It wasn't rejection, it was patience. You were waiting, perhaps without even realizing it, for the moments and connections that are truly worthy of who you are.